Government shutdown.
The government shutdown.
Government shutdown.
Government shutdown.
Government shutdown.
Everything's going good. We're respected by every nation in the world. And you know what happens? The Democrats want to shut it down.
Why does the most powerful nation in the world choose to shut itself down? It's a word we hear every year, shutdown. But it's not just a headline, it's a weapon. On September 25th, it was a threat. On October 1st, it became reality. The U.S. government is officially in shutdown. The order? Reduction in force. Not a furlough, permanent termination. 800,000 workers. No pay. Airports collapse. National parks locked. The economy bleeding billions. This is not a natural disaster, not an act of terror. This is a self-inflicted wound, a dangerous political game, with American lives as the pawns. This is the U.S. government shutdown, a wound we inflict on ourselves, again and again. So why does the world's most powerful nation keep pressing its own self-destruct button? Does the U.S. government shut down because it's run out of money? You might think so, like a company going bankrupt. But the truth is nothing like that. To understand, imagine the country as a single household. The U.S. Constitution gives the credit card for that household to Congress. They, and only they, have the power to decide where and how much money to spend. And there is one single absolute rule. Until you agree on a budget, the credit card is frozen. It's a simple common sense rule. But what happens when someone in the family starts using that rule as a weapon? When they deliberately refuse to agree on the budget just to get what they want? Like saying, "I'm not agreeing to pay the electric bill until you buy me a new car." That is the essence of a government shutdown. It's not a failure of the system. It's the system's own rules turned into a weapon. And at that moment, an old, dusty law awakens like a referee, the Anti-Deficiency Act. Its command is absolute. If the money has not been approved, it is illegal to work. A law designed to prevent overspending has now become the trigger for a national crisis. So, a shutdown is not an accident. It is the intentional flipping of the government's own self-destruct switch. And in the calculated chaos that follows, what exactly happens to our lives? So what happens to my life when the government shuts down? At the heart of all the chaos is a single decision: who is essential and who is not. That decision is made by a little-known but immensely powerful office in the White House, the OMB. The criteria are as cold as they are simple. Does your job prevent an imminent threat to human life or property? They are deemed essential, and under that name, they are forced to keep working without pay. A noble duty to one's country is instantly turned into indentured servitude. Then there is the second America, the one forced to a halt. The NASA scientist planning the next mission to Mars, the CDC researcher hunting for the next pandemic, the archivist preserving the nation's history. They are branded non-essential and told to go home. Their dreams, their research, the future of the country itself, all put on hold. But this isn't just a story about government employees. It's a story about you. Your urgent passport for an international business trip is denied. Your family's planned vacation to the Grand Canyon is canceled. The doors to the Smithsonian museums are locked. The entire daily fabric of life, woven by this massive system, vanishes in an instant. The system freezes. The services stop, but the weight of this calculated chaos is not felt equally. For some, it's an inconvenience. For others, it's a question of survival. So, who really ends up paying the price? So then, who are the real victims of a government shutdown? The bill for this political disaster always arrives at the doors of ordinary people. The most obvious losers by far are the federal employees.
When it comes to that next paycheck that you don't receive, that's when the problems start to come in, and where officers have to make the decision as to whether to come to put gas in the car to come to work, or maybe buy food, buy diapers.
A shutdown could mean that some federal workers will be forced to work without pay.
Over 800,000 people lose their income in an instant, forced to worry about next month's rent. While a law usually guarantees they get back pay later, that's little comfort after weeks or even a month of living on credit cards and prayers. Worse, the threat of a reduction in force, permanent termination, amplifies their anxiety from a financial crisis into an existential one. The second loser is the American public. The damage goes far beyond inconvenience. Small business owners who rely on tourists near national parks are pushed to the brink of bankruptcy. Critical government functions like food safety inspections and hazardous waste oversight are put on pause. Out of sight, the risks to public health and safety quietly begin to mount. The final loser is America's standing in the world. The 2019 shutdown cost the U.S. economy an estimated $11 billion. That's $11 billion that simply evaporated as the price of a political fight. But the damage isn't just measured in dollars, it's measured in trust. And that cost might be impossible to calculate. So then, who are the winners? In the short term, it might be the president or a congressional leader who uses the crisis to rally their base and achieve a political goal. But is a victory won by holding hundreds of thousands of lives hostage really a victory at all? In the end, there are no true winners in this game. There are only losers left to pay the bill. But the shockwaves from this self-inflicted crisis don't stop at America's borders. When the world's superpower decides to turn off its own lights, what does everyone else see? For America's adversaries, it's a gift. State media in Beijing and Moscow portray the shutdown as the ultimate proof of democratic decay. The message is simple and powerful. Look at the chaos of the West. Their system is broken. Our system is strong. Every locked federal building, every furloughed worker becomes a propaganda victory, undermining America's influence without firing a single shot. For America's allies, it's a source of profound anxiety. In Seoul, Tokyo, and Berlin, leaders are forced to ask a difficult question. Can we truly depend on a partner that is so predictably unstable? If Washington can't even agree to pay its own employees, can it be trusted to honor its treaties, to lead in a global crisis, to be a reliable pillar of world order? The shutdown sows seeds of doubt, pushing allies to hedge their bets. This political theater doesn't just damage America's reputation, it sends jitters through the global economy. The risk of a shutdown, however temporary, creates uncertainty, and uncertainty is the one thing global markets hate most. The image of a chaotic, unreliable America isn't created overnight. It's built brick by brick with every crisis. So why does this keep happening? To understand, we have to look back at the history of the game itself. Is this the first time? This dangerous game of flipping the government's self-destruct switch is nothing new. What was once considered a bug in the system has, over time, been engineered into one of Washington's most powerful features.
The government is partially shutting down because Congress has failed to pass the straightforward legislation necessary to keep the government running without imposing sharp hikes in Medicare premiums and deep cuts in education and the environment.
In 1995, Republican Speaker of the House Newt Gingrich was the first to truly weaponize it. He tried to force President Bill Clinton to accept his budget cuts. The result was a disastrous backfire. An angry public blamed Gingrich and the Republicans, not the president. Back then, a shutdown was seen for what it was, a foolish, self-inflicted wound. But time passed, and the rules of the game changed. In 2013, Republicans unsheathed the weapon again. This time, the target was Obamacare.
He brought forward a bill to pay the Coast Guard. It did nothing else.
After a 16-day paralysis, they gained nothing. But they learned a valuable lesson. If you can just win the public relations war over who is to blame, the blame game, you can minimize the political damage. And in 2018, a master of this game took the stage, President Donald Trump. He initiated the longest shutdown in U.S. history, 35 days, to secure $5.7 billion for his border wall. His strategy was simple and direct: shift all blame for the chaos and pain onto the Democrats. The shutdown was no longer a negotiation tactic. It was a massive political spectacle designed to demonize the opposition and energize his base. We've seen the blueprint of the shutdown machine. We've witnessed the dangerous game played within it, and we have seen who is forced to pay the price.
The recurring government shutdown, it isn't just an administrative disruption for a few days or weeks. It is a warning sign of deep cracks forming in the foundation of the system. A dangerous signal that the basic engines of democracy, compromise, and consent are seizing up. As long as politics is treated as a war where opponents are enemies, and the functions of the state are seen as weapons, this act of self-harm will happen again. A ticking time bomb, waiting for the right moment to explode. A society where the system is designed to stop itself. At the end of that road, what will we be left to see?